Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, political fighters, and all you all out there that are just sick and doggone tired of this craziness. Let's keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, as a phrase from a great Eddie Murphy movie would be. I don't want to get in trouble. Welcome to the August 6, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the number. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube, and email me at richard@wcpt820.com, and follow me on all the socials under Choose Views. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez, driving it home. It's The Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Also in the evenings, make sure you are tuning into the Politics Bar, the Matt McNeil Show, and the Gailey Show. And you guys know we broadcast, obviously here on WCPT AM 820. We broadcast on WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM down in Warren County, North Carolina. And we also are on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. That means we are reaching out to people all over the Midwest, spreading into the South, Southeast. You know, who knows what could happen? We might be out west sometime soon. We might be in the Northeast. Why? Because WCPT is working its behind off to bring you the best that we've got. Heartland Signal is doing the same thing. We want to bring you the best that we've got. We want you to know where you can go to get the things that you need to be plugged in and tuned up and ready to go, fired up and ready to go. Over at heartlandsignal.com, as you know, Jocelyn Benson won in Michigan in their race to face off for governor against John James. So we've got to get behind Ms. Benson. She's been a good leader in the state of Michigan. And John James will be a horror show for the state. I'm just going to say it as it is. He'll be a horror show for the state, and that then means a horror show for the Midwest and the rest of the country. Trust me on that. We don't need him, the governor of the state that is our largest automotive producer, period. So we've got to get behind Ms. Benson. We'll talk about that. We'll work really hard to get her on the show as well. Lots of races that were decided Tuesday evening. We didn't get a chance to cover everything yesterday. But make your way over to Heartland Signal so that you can catch a variety of articles, things that are going on with the DFL in Minnesota, things that are going on with congressional reform and raising the standards of how they're navigating what SCOTUS is doing in Minnesota, what farmers are saying. We've got just a ton of great articles that are there. So please make your way over to heartlandsignal.com and grab all the articles that are there, like them and pass them on to the people that you know. Obviously, probably the biggest conversation right now in terms of what's happening here in the Midwest as part of a bigger conversation on national politics is Dr. Syed winning the primary for the U.S. Senate seat that Gary Peters is stepping down from. Listen, guys, I can't pull any punches on this because I don't want to be one that's BSing. I know this is what's going to happen with Dr. Syed. It's already happening. We weren't even 24 hours in, 12 hours in, frankly. And the Republicans are already throwing up all the traditional tropes and garbage, all the racist, biased garbage about Dr. Syed and he's this and he's that. Listen, I'm sick and tired of the who like to be called the mainstream voices in America, and that's code for me for that straight white male Christian voice in America. I'm sick and tired of that voice dictating to us what our message should be and who we should follow and who we should partner with. And frankly, the Democratic voices need to shut the hell up too. He won because the voters said that's who we want. And in that was some white folks in suburban and rural communities. So when you hear somebody say, oh, he's a Muslim and he's this, and you need to check them real time. They don't get to breathe another breath of political air if they're going to trash talk this man who won. Listen, let's just break this down. There aren't enough Muslims in the state of Michigan to have voted for him to win that election. That's a database fact. That is not my opinion. That's a numeric fact. Look at the numbers. So if you believe in us being a Big Ten and you believe in us being a diverse society and you want us to win the Senate back, then you need to find a way to have to wrestle up the courage and the strength to call out anybody that says anything about Dr. S.T.E.A.M. And I'm talking some folks that you probably care about that say, well, he's Muslim and, I don't think he can win in the general. He's not the likable, all that stuff. It's coming. Be prepared to call it out real time. And if you believe in us winning back both the House and the Senate, it is going to go through Michigan. It's certainly going to be a hugely big part of it. So have the courage to call people out on their BS real time, because it's going to be needed. And if you can help, and listen, they spent $60 million. Now, that came from a variety of sources. Some of it came from the left to support Haley Stevens, and it didn't work, y'all. I already saw people saying that the margin was slim, though. And it's like, what? It's just like, golly, the margin was slim. He won. Because the voters said that's who we want. So, $60 million. And he still won. That tells you the message is stronger than the money. Come on, y'all. Who are we talking to here? If there is an example right now of the message, the ideas, the platform, and listening to the voters is stronger than the money. If people don't get that, then there is really something wrong with the folks that are so-called the strategists and the mindsets and all these other folks, these consultants. They don't know a damn thing because the money didn't win out. And let's just put this out here. A white woman lost. I mean, come on now. A moderate white woman lost to a Muslim man in the state of Michigan, and they had $60 million behind that effort. That ought to tell you that the voters spoke louder than the money did. Now, the next point I'm going to make on this is the money's going to be probably 2 to 3 times larger because white men in America are scared as hell of what could happen if Dr. S.T.E.A.M. were to win that Senate seat in Michigan. They're scared as hell, and it starts at the top. Donald Trump is freaked out because if we were to win that seat in Michigan, and I say we as a team, what that means is we could probably take back the Senate. But it also says that the voters in Michigan on a statewide level said that the policies of this man, be damn his religion and his faith and all that, who happens to be one very strong supporter of the Jewish faith and the Christian faith. And by the way, he's Egyptian, so we have a lot in common. But the point is that the money's coming. It's going to come in droves. They're probably going to spend more money on this race. They might spend more money on this race, guys, than Tallarico and Paxson in Texas. Call me crazy. But those are going to be 1 and 2. They'll probably oscillate back and forth. And maybe the third will be Collins and Troy Jackson up in Maine. They're going to dump a ton of money in this Michigan race because this one probably means more to straight white Christian males in America than the other two mean. It does. Let's be honest with ourselves about this. So if we believe in the things that we say we believe in, then we've got to be willing to stretch our wings a little bit in terms of supporting this race. I am not one to say that it's going to be that he's not going to be. Hell yeah, he won this race by beating a person that is a good candidate, good congresswoman. Would have been saying the same thing about her if she had won, because she'd be catching all the hell as a woman. So we have to be willing to say we can win, we will win. And oh, by the way, Mike Rogers sucks as a candidate. I told y'all I wasn't going to mince any words. He sucks as a candidate. Yes, I said it. Tell him I said it. 10 toes in front of the building. Show up, Mike. come on the show because he does. He doesn't give a damn about the folks in Michigan. He's a rubber stamp for Donald Trump. We can't have that, guys. On today's show, right after this break, Cecilia Cuff will be with us. She is the economic development leader based here in Chicago. Going to be talking about the inaugural Bronzeville Youth Innovation S.T.E.A.M program that's taking place. And we're going to have her. That's taking place tomorrow. She's going to be with us shortly. Lisa Song, reporter at ProPublica, talking about how Trump's America First administration could shut down the U.S. scientists and shut out U.S. scientists as part of the Nobel Prize-worthy discovery. Kim Hardy, who is running for Congress in the 7th Congressional District in North Carolina, and Antonio Ciaccia will be with us in the 7:30 hour. He's the CEO and secretary of 46 Brooklyn, an Ohio-based nonprofit working to improve the accessibility and usability of the U.S. drug pricing data. There you go, guys. That's what we got. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chu's Views.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
All right, guys, welcome back to Chu's Views. Our question of the day, let me get this in before we have Ms. Cuff on. The Michigan primary is over, and if you were part of Dr. Abdul Saeed's campaign team, what would be some suggestions you would tell him about how to beat Mike Rogers in the general election? Send us your text to our question of the day. Give us a call at 773-763-9278, and go to our Facebook page and let us know your thoughts there as well. All right, Chicago is known for being the first and doing a lot of things, and we are always looking for ways to strengthen our youth programs, to partner with the city and the state to make sure that our Chicago youth programs are working and that they're efficient. And with us this morning is one of Chicago's top community organizers. She is the founder and developer of the Bronzeville Festival and Southside Youth Innovation Program. Good morning, Cecilia Cuff. Welcome to Chu's Views.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. My throat's scratchy this morning. I don't know why that is. I'm like upset. I was driving here going, where is that coming from?
You need to grab some tea.
There you go. Well, it's great to meet you. It's great to have you on the show with us this morning. Thanks for taking a few minutes out to help us understand what's going on with your new program. This is exciting.
We are super excited. It's going to be a great weekend, and all the speakers and the presenters have been kind of getting ready for this weekend. So this is going to be the first annual Bronzeville Youth Innovation and S.T.E.A.M Festival. And I think what makes it most exciting is that it's actually being produced by Chicago youth themselves. So we worked with the Mayor's Initiative, Chicago Youth Works, an incredible workforce development program throughout the summer. And at Southside Sanctuary, we worked one-on-one with our interns to figure out what does their future look like, but more importantly, what are the steps that we need to do during this summer to get you one step closer to your dream job? And so a few of our interns this year were really excited about AI and tech and programming. And so we talked about how do we use our gifts and our skills to then enrich the rest of the community around us. And that's actually how this initiative was born.
that it came from the kids. It
did.
That's so cool. The kids are like, you know what? We've got great adults around us, and they're going to help us with this, but we bring them a good idea. You know, I've always felt, Cecilia, and maybe you feel some of this as well, that when children bring ideas to grown folks, whether they be parents, teachers, counselors, uncles, aunties, whatever, big brothers, when they bring ideas to those folks, it says to me that an environment was created where they felt comfortable talking about their desires and their hopes and things for the future. Is that a fair overlay to place here?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You know, I believe very solely that my success as a human being, and especially in my adult years, came from the ability to imagine. At Southside Sanctuary, we work really closely with organizations like Virgil Abloh Foundation, which, you know, we know Virgil Abloh really thought that everything that he does, he's doing for his self years and the formative years. And so that's the Virgil Abloh Foundation now is doing incredible work for juniors in high school. But for this initiative specifically, we partnered up with Camp Lotus, or Lotus Camp Flight, with Erin Ireland, who's incredible. And we'll be working with them, and they're bringing 30 of their campers in addition to the 150-plus RSVPs that we have coming from the community. But there are initiatives like that and partnerships like that where you're absolutely right. We have to create an environment where people feel like it's, and youth specifically, feel like it's okay to dream, or it's okay to think outside the box, because I think that's how great ideas and innovative ideas are born.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's always excited me when I see young folks that are like, you know, they're just beaming with excitement about something that popped into their brain, and then they had a place to send that idea out into the universe, literally. And, you know, there's people around them to help them can grow those ideas. It's one of the coolest things to see, in that inspiration and excitement in the youth's face and their mind when they're turned on and tuned in. So that's so great to hear. Talk about the panel discussion that you're going to have.
Absolutely. So we'll actually have 4 different panels throughout the day. The event goes from 11 until 3 p.m. So at 11 a.m., we'll start off with a kickoff and really use that to talk about what types of innovation is happening in your neighborhood. We have another panel that's reviewing what are some non-traditional pathways to get to, or what are all the pathways to get to any sort of careers in tech and STEAM. We have another panel that's talking about innovation begins in your neighborhood. So we've got on each of those panels 4 different experts from the community, from the Bronzeville to Southside community, who are going to be talking about everything from starting a hospital to being a digital creator and being able to have a living from that, to aerospace. So we've got such a range of different voices, and we're really excited to be able to have a student Chicago YouthWorks moderator of each of those panels as well. So again, this is solely being led by the students. I'm just here to bring their dreams and their vision to fruition. To
keep the guardrails on, but they're the ones they're the ones that are driving the vehicle. It's so exciting. I don't know if you can see, or you can't see, but you can hear the smile on my voice about this. And you've gotten some great support from, frankly, the city and the governor's office, right?
Well, I guess I'll say we're really doing this as a pioneering ourselves. We did work with Chicago YouthWorks through the summer, and that's been an awesome program to be able to help give on a hands-on job experience and training to our students, but also for smaller nonprofit organizations like us at Southside Sanctuary, that actually becomes our ambassador and our ambassadorship for the summer. So that's great. And I think for us, you know, we know the incredible initiatives that our Governor J.B. Pritzker has coming up, like the Quantum Park, and so many of the other initiatives that Alderman Dow, our alderman, has also worked to bring to our community. And I think it's our job to respond to that leadership that they're bringing to the table and to those entrepreneurial or enterprise initiatives that they're bringing to make our environment stronger. And we need to, you know, to be honest, prepare our students to be able to move into those workforce spaces, or to be able to get those apprenticeships, so that when those opportunities come available for the corporations that they've attracted to our communities, that we are preparing our next generation to move into those positions. So that was really, we're kind of acting as a response to the incredible groundwork that's been laid by our government leaders.
Yeah, it's exciting to see that come together when the private sector and the public sector, the individual and the government leaders figure it out and say, you know what, we got a lot of good things that we can get done. We can just lean in together, then we get them done. It's sometimes so simple, but I'm glad to know that we've got this type of organization and what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about S.T.E.A.M and how this is playing into the development of this program and how it's going to be that beyond college, have that beyond college impact.
Absolutely. The S.T.E.A.M portion, which we've talked through as a leadership team, is really looking at S.T.E.A.M from not being something that's yes but something that's more of yes and. Can you do arts and also be involved in, digital media? Can you be into drone simulation, but also into video gaming? So I think we've taught these concepts in a silo previously, and that, to be honest, it just doesn't stick anymore. And I think our ability to look into the future and know that all of those worlds are led by AI, or all of those worlds are going to be led by tech, and making sure that people feel comfortable navigating through all of those worlds, and understanding again that they all play into each other, especially moving into next generation. So I think that's kind of the understanding that S.T.E.A.M is a part of all of our daily lives was something that was really important, and that's actually why we created the Innovation Village, which will actually be 15 different stations that are S.T.E.A.M related. So we've got everything from, looking at blood platelets through a microscope to looking at a telescope, or we're doing drone simulation. We'll have students there that are making their 2D and 3D characters and then bringing them to life through holographs. We have 3D printing stations, so folks can think of a concept and learn how to program it and print it right on stage and take it with them. And then we even have folks that are going to be working to help people build their own video games. So a little bit of everything for all ages from 5 to 15, and there'll be 15 different stations that are all different types of STEAM-related activities, but again, are all things that students could go home and try to fiddle with or make on their own. And then to encourage that, we also are going to be giving away a raffle of a drone simulator and recorder, so people will actually be able to do these types of activities in their own home if they win the drone.
That's fantastic. Cecilia, do us a favor. Let folks know one more time the time of it, and how they can be a part of the event.
Absolutely. So if you go to southsidesanctuary.org, that's our landing page for all the different incredible community initiatives that we have going on at Southside Sanctuary. This will be taking place this coming Friday from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. at 4702 South Martin Luther King Drive, right at the corner of 47th and King, across from the incredible Peaches restaurant. And then we also have our social media. Our Instagram is Southside Sanctuary Shy. So we're really excited, and we're always looking for partnerships. This is the first year, hopefully, of many, and we're looking forward to this thing growing.
Fantastic. Cecilia Cuff, thanks for being with us this morning. I'm going to send you all the good energy that you guys deserve and putting on such a wonderful event.
We're so excited. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in, and we'll be right back with more of Chu's Views.
How do you know you're home? At Habitat for Humanity, we believe it's when you find peace, stability, and safety. But 1 in 3 people on Earth woke up today without a good home. Not because of chance, but because of high costs and other very real barriers. A housing crisis this big needs all of us. So let's open the door to opportunity and build a tomorrow where home is possible for everyone. Visit Habitat.org to learn more. Again, that's Habitat.org. Habitat for Humanity. Let's open the door.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
You deserve more than yelling at your phone alone. I'm Patty Vasquez, comedian, policy nerd, and the friend who actually did the reading. On Driving It Home, we break down what's really going on, figure out what to do about it, and yeah, we laugh because what else are we going to do? I've done the homework, and I'll let you cheat off my paper because here's the deal. They want you confused, exhausted, and too tired to care. We're not going to do that. We're sharp, funny, and not backing down. That's the resist and persist energy.
Patty Vasquez, weeknights 5 to 7 on WCPT 820.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with cloudy skies, a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for rain showers here late, cloudy and a low near 68. By Friday, partial sunshine, a high of 83 degrees. Saturday, mostly sunny and a high around 83. Sunday, chance for rain and storms, high of 83. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 72.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you were just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. Thanks for keeping it locked in. And get out to see what the folks are doing with Cecilia's organization. If you need more information, hit me with an email and I'll send it to you at richard@WCPT820.com. Our next guest is someone that has received the Edgar Allan Poe Award, Pulitzer Prize finalist for public service, has worked with various publications, really specializing in what, her degree in learning from MIT taught her about environmental science and environmental writing. Our guest would be Lisa Song, who is a reporter at ProPublica. Good morning, Lisa, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, you've been really, I guess the best word is just kind of calling it as you see it when it comes to what this administration broadly and more specifically Donald Trump has done with this America First program. And a great article that I read when it first came out and talked to some people last week about where we are when it comes to science broadly, but where we are specifically and how it's impacting the country. Tell us about your article, which is titled How Trump's America First Administration Could Shut U.S. Scientists Out of the Next Nobel-Worthy Discovery. Talk to us, Lisa.
Yeah, so the article is about this new rule that the White House wants to put onto every federal agency, basically in the government. And this rule would affect hundreds of billions of dollars of grants that the federal government gives out, whether it is grants for education or veteran services or the National Institutes of Health or the National Science Foundation. And the whole point of the rule is to say, we are going to put political appointees in charge of selecting which grant applications are successful. And so this would be a fundamental change from how grants are selected now, which is right now you get actual subject matter experts to decide which grants are worth funding. So if you have a bunch of cancer scientists from tons of universities all vying for a small slice of the funding that the government has available, you usually get other cancer scientists who know the subject to say, okay, these 10% of applicants are the best because their science is the best, and those are the projects we're going to fund. This new rule would say, political appointees are going to make the selections, and these appointees don't have to know anything about cancer research or the subject of the grants, and they're going to select the grants based on how well the subject aligns with President Trump's political priorities. So it would just be a fundamental shift in how we hand out tons and tons of money.
Last week, when this first kind of hit the scene, and I talked about your article, but we weren't able to get you on until now, I talked about it from the standpoint of Russell Vought, who is the head of the Office of OMB. And there was actually a clip that we had of Representative Rashida Tlaib really giving him the business on some of the failures thus far of the OMB and failures as it relates, not failures, but the consolidation, if you will, of what you just said about these changes with the different agencies. Talk a little bit about him. You wrote a great piece on OMB and just how awful that office is, or how bad it's turned, maybe is a better way of putting it.
Yeah, so the OMB is the Office of Management and Budget. It's this office within the White House that until recently most people didn't know existed. And the person in charge of that office, his name is Russell Vought. He is really a true believer and has really been able to maximize the powers of that office to basically dictate where he wants money to go. And so, you know, my colleague Andy Kroll is the one who wrote this amazing, really long article about Russell Vought and the OMB and his work there. He has used the OMB to, cut off funding for USAID and countless other projects and funding from across the government, even when Congress has allocated the money for certain programs and grants. And so Vought really believes in concentrating power within the executive branch, and the OMB has allowed him to really have his say in so many different agencies and so many parts of the government whenever money is involved. And so this particular rule that would affect science funding and countless other agencies is coming from the OMB. It is coming from Russell Vaught's office. And, you know, we've already seen over the past 18 months tons and tons of science and research and other types of grants canceled by the government, right, by various different agencies. What Vought is trying to do with this rule is consolidate all of those changes into a single policy and say, this is how it's going to be from now on across dozens of agencies across the government. You know, if you want money from the government, we are going to prioritize the stuff people wants to do that aligns with the president's agenda. And so anything that they deem, quote, anti-DEI or something is not going to have a fair chance of getting funded.
And some of this is tied, and maybe most of it is tied to this belief in the unitary executive theory, correct?
Yeah, it's all about concentrating power into the executive government and the idea that, you know, the executive branch, the White House, they can do a lot more than what traditionally they have done or what Congress has allowed them to do.
And technically, right now, because much of this has been customary is the word that I've been using, and sort of the way, quote, we've done it without actual laws in place to either prevent it or enforce it. It's allowing this particular administration to kind of operate unilaterally. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
I mean, yeah, I have colleagues who have written a lot about how the way Congress is set up, one of their primary powers is to control federal spending, right? They select every year how much money every agency gets, how much money each program gets, and that is one of their primary functions. And what the White House and OMB has done under Russ Vought is repeatedly defy those instructions from Congress. So you see that sort of tension and just chaos playing out again and again, where Congress says, we want this much money going to this program or USAID or whatever it might be, and the White House just not letting it happen.
And this ties also back to, which a lot of people have kind of forgotten about now, and is the Supreme Court or the Supreme Court justices essentially saying that Donald Trump had the power, or they were giving him the power, or suddenly stepping out of the way of him and abusing his power when it comes to agency firings. Because that then by removing the current agency heads, they can put in the people that they want, the political appointees, not to, like to your point, not just with one area, let's say science, for example, but any other agency where they don't want monies going that have been allocated by Congress. And that's the slippery slope that we're on. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think what's important to remember is that the way our government normally works is you have all these federal agencies, and the majority of staff are what's called career employees, right? They are people, maybe a scientist or an accountant or somebody who stays in the federal government, is a federal employee, and they work there for decades. They are supposed to be non-political staff. They are experts in a particular field, and they stay and do their work regardless of what party is in the White House or who the president is. And then separately, every 4 years, you have a whole separate set of staff who are political appointees, right? They tend to be at the top of the agencies, and they set the agenda. And what we are seeing is that Trump fairly recently made a change that would allow him to fire a bunch of career civil staff much more easily, and then to be able to have more political appointees within these agencies. And so that's another systemic change that could really affect how all of these agencies, including the ones on science funding, operate in the future.
So tell us, before we're going to take a quick break in a moment, but tell us, Lisa, before we go to break, what have been some of the, breakthroughs that have taken place as a result of having this independence, and as a result of the collaborations that we've had with science?
Yeah, I mean, my article focused on one scientific breakthrough in particular, and that was something from 2012 when particle physicists discovered what's called the Higgs boson. And what the discovery meant was that physicists were able to prove for the first time why people and planets and stars have physical solid mass. And this was the result of decades and decades of work, and 6,000 scientists from all over the world contributed to this massive breakthrough. And so my article was pointing out that something like this massive, huge scientific achievement, could not have happened under the new rule that the White House wants to instate. And so I have people participated in that particular breakthrough in 2012 saying, if this rule had been in place back then, the U.S. just wouldn't have been able to play a role. We would have been left out. We would have been watching from the sidelines as scientists from other countries, made this breakthrough and celebrated the results, but we would have been left out.
Yeah, so America first doesn't always mean America alone. It means whatever it means to this administration, but it should not mean America alone, which is different than America making sure that we take care of ourselves. I think that's oftentimes the misperception and the misread of this conversation. Don't you agree? Or do you not agree but have a different perspective on it? I'm sorry.
I mean, I think that when it comes to science, what we are seeing is that the more complicated and the more significant the discovery or breakthrough, the more likely it is that it was the work of hundreds, if not thousands, of people from all over the world, right? Mm-hmm. Think about other breakthroughs like mapping the human genome, or the very fast creation of the COVID-19 vaccine, right? So soon after the pandemic happened. Those are not things that a small group of people can achieve. And they only happen because scientists from all different countries worked together closely. They were free to collaborate with each other, and they, shared their data, shared their results, helped each other. And one of the principal things this OMB rule would do is place restrictions on how American scientists can work with scientists from other countries. And so that is one of the main things that American scientists are really worried about right now, right, is we can't do everything by ourselves. It is impossible if we're talking about really important future discoveries.
Yeah. Lisa, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more conversation with Lisa Song. I'm Richard Chu, and this is Chu's Views.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, S.T.E.A.M has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, S.T.E.A.M will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. S.T.E.A.M is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
All right, guys, welcome back to Chu's Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Lisa Song, reporter at ProPublica, about her latest article, how Trump's America First administration could shut U.S. scientists out of the next Nobel-Worthy conversation and discovery. Before we went to the break, Lisa was just kind of giving us a little bit of her insight on us not being a participant in the international conversation when it comes to science and so many other areas. And Lisa, this is me kind of poking the bear with Russell Vought, who you said something earlier that I don't want us to slip by too quickly, and that he's a true believer. I think those are the words that you described. And I'm going to ask a question about how this group, this cabal, if you will, that's trying to do this. Part of what I read and hear about them is that they've got a couple of true believers from a Christian standpoint that believe that science should be sub to, their Christian beliefs. And it seems that that's the overlay, if I'm making any sense in my interpretation.
I am not the expert on Russell Vought. That would have to be my colleague Andy Kroll, who has written a ton about him. I simply mentioned Russell Vought a little bit in my article because he's obviously the lead person behind all of this, and he's running OMB, where all these rules are coming from. But he really believes in the power of the executive branch and in really challenging and trying to expand the power of OMB in particular, right? And what I can say is that traditionally OMB is there to provide certain types of guidance on federal spending. So when an agency wants to put out a rule about something, whether it's pollution or education, at some point OMB plays a role in sort of guiding how the money should be spent. And so this new rule that Russell Vought wants for all federal grants, it is actually an edit of an existing rule that has existed under the Obama administration, under the Biden administration, under the first Trump administration. So he's not making stuff up entirely, but he took an existing rule that dictates how his office should provide guidelines on federal spending, and he is really ripping it up and changing it in enormous ways, right? And now, instead of just guiding federal agencies on how to spend money, he is saying, we are going to dictate the types of places where you can spend your money. We are going to dictate the content of the projects that your agency can spend money on, because we are going to allow political appointees to decide what is worthy of funding. And so that is really the fundamental change, is expanding the absolute power of this particular office across dozens and dozens of federal agencies.
Yeah, so that helps us better understand some of the baseline of all this. It's his desire is to keep pushing the door open to give the executive branch more power in not only the determination of where funding goes and resources go, but to how much goes to those particular agencies. So again, like you said earlier, it's just a consolidation of power, and whatever their belief system is, you and I don't need to be experts on it, but it's clearly showing itself in the execution of how they're trying to lead right now. Help us understand this, Lisa. This is a question that I don't know how many people really are talking about it, but it pops into my mind because at the end of the day, have spent a tremendous amount of time as an investigative reporter in the environmental space. And when we go to war, as we are right now in Iran, the big thing that doesn't get talked about a lot, at least that I don't hear it enough, is the industrial pollution that takes place and the environmental impact. And obviously that's taking place in Iran, but it's still global. The environment is global. How do you look at that when we go to war, when war is taking place anywhere on the planet?
Oh gosh, I mean, obviously, war is extremely polluting in so many ways, right? Just if you forget about the bombs and the weapons for a moment, just the transport of the troops, of supplies. Think about all of the fossil fuels that are burned just to move people and supplies around. Right. And these are, this is heavy equipment. It's not just driving a car to the mall. So tons and tons of fossil fuels used there. Also, of course, anytime you're dealing with bombs and weapons, the sort of chemical contamination that occurs is enormous. Air pollution, water pollution, unexploded ordnances that years later may explode. So you've got all this kind of danger that lingers even after a war is over. All of that. And this is not a particular niche expertise of mine, but I've certainly read a lot of stories about just the sheer contamination of the land and wildlife and the environment in places like Gaza, Ukraine, right? And a lot of times, especially for larger conflicts, the time it takes to recover and restore an ecosystem and environment, you're talking about decades of time. It's not something you can send a company in and clean it up in a day or two after the war ends. So we have already seen this summer so much the obvious impacts of climate change, right, all over the world. Huge wildfires in Spain and France, really, really high, basically unlivable hot temperatures in India, and of course all of the smoke in the U.S. From wildfires in the West and in Canada, right? Here in New York City, we had days and days where you basically couldn't go outside, and we didn't even have the worst air, right? Think about Michigan. Think about what's happening in the Pacific Northwest right now. Even without war, we are already dealing with huge environmental challenges. And so when we have war, it's just more piled on top of that.
Yeah. Do you see, or how do you see, I guess the way I look at this is international, not international, but national security intersecting with things like environmental oversight and our supply chains. How is that tied together, or do you think that there's any sort of an intersection there?
Well, there definitely has been a lot of reporting and reports on how climate change and environmental problems challenge and degrade every country's national security, right? I mean, just from a very simple perspective, things like you can have military bases that are basically sinking or deteriorating due to sea level rise, just something very simple like that. And historically, the military has put out reports and warnings about how their own assets and locations are vulnerable to the effects of climate change. That particular thing is not a topic that I know a lot about, but it is certainly on people's minds, and a lot of people in the military are aware of it and worry about it. And that's just in the absence of any global conflicts of wars. Again, climate change is affecting everybody in all sorts of ways all the time, even if we were completely at peace as a world.
Yeah, we walked away from the Paris Accords, obviously. What I guess I'll just ask this question this way: what has been the true downsides of that change in our U.S. policy?
I mean, it's kind of hard to explain the scope of that. The Paris Accords were this moment of optimism on climate action globally, and now within the past year or two, everybody seems to be retreating, right? Retreating from something that has incalculable damages and risk to every country. I mean, thinking about the damage that climate change causes just in terms of healthcare, right? Think about the wildfire smoke and people who have asthma and hospital visits, the damage to outdoor workers, for example, farm workers, because of heat waves. Every time we have hurricane season and there are hurricanes, entire communities are decimated. Think about all of the wildfires happening out west, like the wildfires in Spokane right now, Washington State. So, there is this incredible disconnect between what is happening to communities all over the world in terms of direct damage from climate change and the apparently stepping back and just lack of action that governments are taking right now. And that is, I don't have a solution for this right now, but it is definitely very disheartening to see how the world seems to have changed so much by caring less about climate change over the past few years, just when the impacts are becoming more and more obvious.
Yeah, I mean, as the U.S. goes in so many ways, the world goes, and that to me was one of the things that sort of bent the arc by us walking away from the Paris Accords or Paris Agreement, because that seems to be, when I look back, like why and when, that seems to be in recent years the thing that was most impactful. Last little bit as we wrap up, Lisa, and thank you so much for being with us this morning. I know our listeners appreciate it. What are you optimistic about, real quickly? And then how can folks find you and follow you in the work that you do?
One thing that really struck me is that people really care about this OMB rule. And, when the rule first came out, it was issued at the end of May. At first, it didn't get a lot of attention. OMB is not a very popular or well-known office. It seemed like a really obscure thing that this tiny office in the White House was going to change something about federal grants. But so many communities and people have made a fuss about it. There were tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of public comments submitted over the rule. There has been some action in the Senate to try to delay implementation of the rule, at least until after the midterms. We won't know for a while if that's successful, but, various lawmakers, including at least one Republican lawmaker, has spoken out against the rule. They want to change it or get rid of it in some way. And so I think seeing that civic engagement and knowing that people are paying attention and care and are trying to have their say in our democracy, that's been really heartening, again, on this subject that could otherwise seem obscure.
How can folks find you real quick as we wrap up?
You can find me if you just search my name on ProPublica's website, just Lisa Song. You'll find a bio page that has contact info. And I don't do much social media, but I am technically on Blue Sky.
Gotcha. Lisa Song, thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate it. Look forward to having you back in the future. Take care, okay?
Thanks. You too.
All right, bye-bye. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chu's Views.
When you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, things get real.
And nobody understands that better than the Parkinson's Foundation. All across the country, we provide resources and support in the fight against Parkinson's, a neurological disease that affects movement.
The Parkinson's Foundation is dedicated to improving care and advancing research towards a cure.
And when you call our helpline, you'll speak to a real person who can help you find the right information. Because while living with Parkinson's can be challenging, there are things you can do to improve your quality of life. So, whether you're newly diagnosed, have been living with Parkinson's for years, or caring for a loved one,
When Parkinson's gets real, find real answers at the Parkinson's Foundation.
go to parkinson.org or call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO, 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
It's the most wonderful time of the year at Staples. They've got back-to-school supplies as low as 25 cents, up to 40% off select tech, and more at staples.com/back-to-school. Staples, that was easy.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Investigators are looking at why a plane was allowed to take off as President Trump's helicopter approached. The AP's Ed Donahue reports.
Marine One had left the White House with the president on board and was approaching Reagan National Airport near Washington Tuesday. It's an apparent violation of safety procedures put in place after last year's mid-air collision between an airliner and an Army helicopter in the same area. 67 people were killed. In this case, the airplane that took off was climbing above Marine One as the helicopter approached, so the two aircraft were not on a collision course. The FAA says the air traffic controller was in contact with both the commercial pilot and Marine One pilot at the time. The White House emphasizes President Trump was never in any danger. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Iran says it's in the final stage of drafting an agreement on the Strait of Hormuz. The strait is crucial to global shipping and energy supplies. President Trump has said a deal could be announced this week. The Israeli military says 2 soldiers have died in an explosion in southern Lebanon. This marks the first Israeli deaths since a truce with Hezbollah began in June. Israeli forces launched strikes in southern Lebanon, accusing Hezbollah of violating the ceasefire. Talks between Lebanese and Israeli negotiators in Rome were cut short due to the escalation. A Senate committee is set to vote today whether to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress and refer him to the Justice Department for potential prosecution. Fauci invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination more than 100 times and refused to answer questions at a hearing last week focused on his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. More on this and other stories at apnews.com. This is AP News. The AP's Lisa Dwyer reports on a new AP NORC poll on how Americans view the impact of extreme heat.
A new AP NORC poll finds that Americans are increasingly noticing the impact of extreme heat on their lives. According to the survey, U.S. adults nationally have become more likely to say that extreme heat has had either a major impact or a minor impact on their travel or vacation plans, electricity bills, their sleep, their families' outdoor activities, and more since 2024. Much of that shift was among people who live in the West or Midwest. At the same time, belief in climate change has declined slightly since last year, with Democrats more likely than Republicans to say that extreme heat has had a major impact on their lives.
Firefighters established containment lines around the perimeters of all 3 Spokane, Washington wildfires. The massive blazes have displaced tens of thousands of people. I'm Marcela
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with cloudy skies, a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for rain showers here late, cloudy and a low near 68. By Friday, partial sunshine, a high of 83 degrees. Saturday, mostly sunny and a high around 83. Sunday, chance for rain and storms, high of 83. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 72.
Save big on auto accessories at Menards. We have what you need to keep your vehicle looking like new. Give your car the care it needs with Max Powered Car Wash from Turtle Wax. The more you use, the stronger the cleaning power becomes, allowing you to effectively remove dirt, grime, and more. Save big on Turtle Wax products. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for more great deals happening this week.
Save big money at
Tom Hartman.
Steve in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind?
Hey there, Tom. I just wanted to welcome you back from your vacation. Did you have some fun, I hope?
We had a great time. We spent some time with some old friends of ours and did a little bit of traveling. In fact, on a flight home, one of the flight attendants came up to Louise and said, "I love your music." So that kind of made the whole trip.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program. Weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts matter. WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks to Lisa Song for hanging out with us a little bit this morning. Talk about the environment, talk about what's important, why legislation and rules are critically important right now. And it's a thing that Democrats can run on all over the country, whether it be in local elections, state elections, or federal. It is an opportunity for us to speak about. I mean, if we're gonna live here on this planet, we have to take care of it. And if we don't, we have nobody to blame but ourselves. And that includes pushing back on elected officials or cabinet members on any level that deny that we have issues and that a responsibility to our climate. Our next guest, Dr. Kimberly Hardy, is a candidate in North Carolina's 7th Congressional District. She's a mom, second vice chair of the NCDP state party, social worker. What can I tell you? She's just getting it done. And as a mom, she wants the environment to be right for her children and for the neighbor's children and the neighbor's children. Good morning and welcome to the show, Dr. Kimberly Hardy. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Me too. Both of us got big smiles on, got our reading glasses on, all that good stuff this morning. So talk to us.
Yours are reading glasses, mine are seeing glasses. I need them all the time.
Well, when I take mine off, I can't see what's inside of a foot of my face. So I guess those are, we should stop calling them reading glasses and call them seeing glasses too. Just what is it? What are you seeing with those glasses?
What I am seeing is a district in North Carolina that has been unserved by our current congressional representative. And I use that word loosely because he's not representing any of the interests of the people who actually live. And I'm also seeing, though, in response to that and to the overreach of the fascist and authoritarian overreach of the current presidential administration, that the people in my district are furious with the whole situation writ large. Mm-hmm. And so there is a mobilization of folks from all across the political spectrum in support of my race. And I know that is something that's happening nationally as well. So that's some of what I'm saying.
But this is something that's important. North Carolina is challenged with some of the things that have happened when it comes to climate. And I was just talking with Lisa Song about her article in ProPublica about how the administration, Russell Vought, Department of OMB, they want to snatch more authority, consolidate more resources. And one of them is our ability as a country to participate in global conversations around science. And that, to me, is, the first cousin of environment. And North Carolina has gotten hammered and not had a federal government that's been there. And to your point, a representative that's looked out for the people there in North Carolina. I've talked to Anderson Clayton about this a number of times. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So my district in particular, for example, is heavily impacted by this lack of care and consideration for the environment. So PFAS, which is the chemical that Chemours knowingly drops into the water and the soil in this area. This is not the only state where this has happened with Chemours. We have had to deal with folks having massive health problems as related to what they call forever chemicals being in the water. This is the stuff, for anyone who's not aware, that makes your skillets slick. This is what keeps it from being nonstick, Right. And what a lot of folks don't know is it's also part of what makes the uniforms that firefighters wear fire retardant. And so they have a very high exposure to this. And so as a result of what's happened here, I personally have met firefighters who've become super sick And doctors come just short of saying that it's because of PFAS, because of all of the political, ramifications of that. And so they'll say, well, you guys are firefighters. You have a heightened, access to these chemicals, which is crazy. But you have people who have well water here, and that well water was their source of water. They will never get that well water back again. They can never drink that again. You have folks who don't want to use water to water their crops. There's a lot of rural areas in the state. This is the second most rural state in the country. And so we can't use the water for that. And we have told Chemours that one of the things they need to do is pay for whole home filtration systems so that folks not just have access to clean drinking water, but also to minimize the risk of dermal exposure. Taking a shower in forever chemicals is still not good, but they won't do it. Most of the work that they will do is they'll give like water filtration for the kitchen sink, and that's it. But I've also met people whose children were born with all sorts of health defects as a result of exposure prenatally to PFAS, and they can't get any sort of care for them. But that's the thing that's an issue, because Medicaid cuts will affect the care of people who have these sorts of disabilities. So all of these things are connected to one another. And then in my district in particular, there are some areas where even the most modest rainfall results in flooding, because the underground infrastructure is simply not there, because Rouser voted against that. And so, so you have that issue that's happening, which is making the soil runoff an issue. In the town of Navassa in Brunswick County, they are a Superfund site. The EPA was just out there again the other day. They've been doing long-term remediation of the dioxins and the creosote that are in the soil and the water there. So the environment is like, it's where we live. It's what we breathe. It's how we exist. And I don't understand why that would be something that we would ever call into question, to pretend that these issues are not real, to deny what we know from scientists to be so, and to approach solutions to it in a way that's driven by science is the only thing that makes any sense. Whatever else is happening in DC is pandering to the worst ideals that most of these people have.
Well, two things. I'm moving to North Carolina so I can vote for you.
Thank you.
No, I'm push people all over the country.
Okay. You're in time, but that's okay.
All right. The other thing is, when you were saying that about the why, and I try to cut through certain things where I think we know the answers to a lot of the things that we wrestle with, and I'm saying all of us. People who would deny science, there's got to be a why. And when I listen to people talk about, well, that's not real in terms of climate change or global warming, I think, how could you not see that? And I've heard people say to me, Richard, it's always been that way. Well, no, it hasn't been. I'm from Chicago. We used to get 4 months of snow, and you prayed that you had enough salt, that your tires were good, that you had, if you grew up in this area, you knew you had to be prepared because it was coming and it was going to stick around. That doesn't I talk more about this, Dr. Kimberly, I talk about how many days in December that the temperature was over 50 degrees. Wow. I've talked more about that than how much snowfall we got. Because now when we get a heavy snowfall, we talk about it like, wow, we got a heavy snowfall, rather than, okay, it snows here for 5 weeks. So
that is crazy to me. I lived in Chicago for 6 very cold years. Yeah, I was 67 in South Shore.
Oh, yes.
And no, it wasn't the quadrangle. It was the little building next to it, right? Like across the South Shore Cultural Center.
Yes, right around the corner.
At University of Chicago, and I was a school social worker at North Lawndale College Prep, when they just had the one up there on that side. So I get it. Like, I remember moving there, and there were exposed skin warnings. I remember the first time it snowed, and my best friend and I, who were originally from Maryland, we were like, oh, we're going to have the day off. And the Chicago public schools were open on time, even though it was the craziest snowfall we'd ever seen.
We know how to get down when it snows here. We just do.
So you all are the barometer by which I measure all other winters. And so, but to know that the winter in Chicago is not like that anymore is all of the evidence you need to know that something is happening.
Yep. I think sometimes, Dr. Kimberly, that some people get caught up in this, and this may seem odd to people, but for those who listen to my show anywhere in the country know I say this, that this sort of belief that this is God's will and that we're, this isn't happening because I think that there's a component there. And when I look at the federal administration right now, as it relates to what I was talking with Lisa Song about earlier, a lot of these true believers in that space, they've all but said that, this is why we are where we are, because they think it's God's will, or that this is not happening because that's not what God would want. And I'm not trying to get somebody to get to speak on their religion or their faith, but there's a component to that right now because of this drive towards Christian nationalism. And it's seeped, it's talk about seeping into the water table. It's seeped into our political water table.
Correct. And this is not the first time. Like, this happened, we all remember Jerry Falwell, like the religious right, which, by the way, is neither. The religious right is neither. Okay, let me just say that. But the religious right has been, pushing this agenda of theirs for a really long time. And so, as a woman of faith, my religion, spirituality are my primary research areas in my scholarly world. And so, I have no problem with people wanting to believe in whatever higher power. If you want to believe that God is doing a thing, then that's fine. But I always say, but God also invented scientists. God is the ultimate scientist, right? And so, like, it's crazy to think if you're a true believer that you can believe in the story of Noah's Ark and how God washed the entire earth clean, but you could not think that, anyway. So all I'm saying is
it's not congruent.
It's not congruent. And I wouldn't push anybody to move away from whatever their faith is, but I would ask them to remember the part in the Bible where it says, my people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. I would ask people to really, it doesn't, two things can be true. You can love the Lord. I love Jesus, but you can also say, I also love the fact that there are learned people who study this stuff for a living, and that science and weather, or science and the economy, or science and whatever can exist in the same place. And so can my faith. Like, these things are not mutually exclusive. But if we pretend that this is all faith all the time, or just there's no way this could be, then that's how you end up with things like Project 2025.
There it is.
Right. Because people say, I remember telling people about this, and they were like, well, he could never do that. It's unconstitutional. And I'm like, okay, but for Donald Trump and his ilk, this is really more of a gentleman's agreement, and none of them are gentlemen.
That's right.
And so they're not holding up to the agreements.
Dr. Kim, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chu's Views.
Hi friends, this is Jason Bissell from the Center for Acupuncture in Wilmette and Chicago Community Acupuncture.
Chico Maku.
We have fun with these ads, but what I'd like to talk about today is no fun. Cancer. After watching my mother battle and eventually lose her fight to cancer when she was 40 and I was 9, I decided to go into medicine. Acupuncture is very effective at helping people go through cancer treatments with less side effects and better outcomes. My father needed 8 weeks of radiation for his throat. His doctors told him that after 2 weeks he would lose his voice, after 4 weeks he'd be on soft food, and after 6 weeks he'd need a liquid diet. Well, he got acupuncture twice a week, he never needed soft food, never went on a liquid diet, he just got a little hoarse. This improved his quality of life and his mood. For everyone fighting cancer out there, I can help. Go to ChiComAcu.com or CenterForAcu.com in Wilmette, ChicoMacu.com or CenterForAcu.com, and be well.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
All right, guys, welcome back to Chu's Views. I'm Richard Chu, if you're just tuning in, and we are talking with Dr. Kimberly Hardy, who's a candidate for North Carolina's 7th Congressional District. We need her in Congress. We need her rational thinking, her education, and her willingness to be able to merge one part of her brain with the other part as it relates to getting things done. That's one of our folks that's been on our show a number of times, Shaughnessy Naughton, who is the head of 314 Action, talks about how important it is that we have more scientists, more engineers, more folks in education, craft specialists in our government on all levels, on the local, state, and federal level. And you're one of those voices right now. But talk to us about what I would say are your core reasons for running for this seat, why you're really doing it, and what is it going, or how is it going to benefit the folks in that district?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me this question. Okay, so for one, I'm a social worker, right? And so our code of ethics mandates our participation in the political space. Like, we should be advocating for policies that are going to help clients and communities and things of that nature. We are required, this is demanded of us. And so, and folks can choose whatever way they want to do it. And so this is the way I've chosen to do that. So aside from being a social work professor, I'm, like you said earlier, second vice chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party. And so for me, this work is just an extension of my social work ethical mandate to engage in the uplift of individuals and communities. And having been a school social worker, like, I know what it looks like when these Medicaid cuts and these SNAP benefit cuts happen in real time to families on the ground. I know what it looks like to have money that Congress has allocated for public schools not to send to the states not get brought down here because Trump has moved it over to whatever his pet projects are. And right now, North Carolina, for example, is 50th in the nation for state per pupil spending for school. And the next state above us is beating us by $5,000 per child. Like, I know what that looks like. And instead of helping families and communities navigate broken systems, we need somebody who will just go in there and fix the system. So social workers are professional problem solvers. I'm not going to solve the problems that we're facing like a politician. Politicians tend to do this stuff for self-interested reasons. I'm a social worker who will be a member of Congress. And so for me, it's how do we take these issues, come up with really common sense solutions to them that actually solve the problem and not just score you political points or not just make you a rock star on one of the, cable TV networks or whatever. For the guy I'm going to beat in November, he's not even doing that. He's not, he's not even trying to be popular. He keeps flying below the radar because he knows that his views, which align 100% of the time with the Trump administration, are trash, and he cannot justify that, which is why he hasn't had a public facing event since 2017. The people of this district have not seen him in forever. And so, like, out in the wild, I like to say, you just never see him anywhere. And so, but if you cared about these people, the people in your very own backyard, then you would go to DC to make sure that the policies and the dollars to make those not just be unfunded mandates, that they would come back and help you. Like, for example, Hurricane Helene. We were talking about the environment before the break. Hurricane Helene was this massive, massive storm. Western North Carolina is still struggling to recover from that. And we need FEMA funding. And we have an administration that is complicit in not giving that funding and not giving it fast enough and not giving enough when it does. So if you really care about people, then that's what public service is all about, serving the public and the public's good and the public's interests and meeting the public's needs. And so as a social worker, that's what I've spent my entire life doing. And so I'm going to just see this as a continuation of that work.
One of the things, Dr. Kimberly, that I'm hoping more and more Democrats do, and it's happening, but I'm hoping more and more Democrats that are running for any office on any level will do, is break down in as simplistic terms as possible how what's happening on a federal level in pretty much every agency and every department has the negative side of trickle down to everybody on a local level, and it doesn't miss anybody. And so when I think about rural North Carolina, I think about all the folks that have been voting for the same things over and over again, not getting the results that they I guess they say they believe. And I, even in Illinois, which is a blue state, I think about it. We've, as a party, we've got to tag, is the phrase I'm using or wording. We've got to tag some of those federal missteps and problematic policies directly to people's bottom line, and their bottom line, not just monetarily, but how they live their lives. Because that's really where the problems are. And I know we've got issues in our party, and we're working hard to get better and strengthen our party. We get that. But on a national level, I think it's really that simple. You want to know why your children are struggling with this? Well, here's a policy that the federal administration enacted or didn't stand behind, and your children are suffering. Just make a very quick through line. Am I crazy?
Yeah. No, you're not crazy. And I try to do this all the time because there are different pockets of voters, folks who have like economic viability might not see themselves as concerned about sort of the economic deprivation that others are suffering. And so I actually at an event recently just talked about how you might have the financial resources to take care of whatever medical emergency may befall someone that you love. However, for the folks that don't, for the folks who have to go to urgent care because they may not have health insurance or they have it but can't afford the copay, for the folks who have to go to the emergency room for something that should have been a primary care physician appointment, but they don't have that, they know they're not going to be able to pay that bill. And so the hospital has to recoup that somehow. Insurance companies have to recoup that somehow. And so people who do have in this country, privilege of private insurance, they're going to see those premiums go up, right? Because we all pay for that. Or if you talk about like schools, I have a lot of folks who are retirees from the New England and New York area that have come down to my part of the state because it's milder winters, their dollars go further, and they're active retirees. And so they might not necessarily be thinking about education outside of like an existential, morally good thing to support. But if you don't care about the fact that we are not getting funding or our teachers are underfunded, that the diminution of education by the Department of Education, by the federal government, no longer being considered a profession, means that teachers who want to go and advance their education and get a master's have fewer access to those dollars. And so now they can't be really strong teachers in the classroom, which trickles down to our kids not getting a really quality education. And
there it is.
Sort of stuff,
Just
right?
making that through line. I mean,
all of it matters.
The one that comes to mind for me is that most people drive or they're in a car. So if you're coming from that north, the example you just gave, and you can throw this into your bucket of things to say to that person who is of those means. So you mean that Mercedes or that Lexus or that BMW that you're driving to and from wherever you go to your morning tennis or pickleball or whatever, you like driving on roads that you got to hit that pothole or weave every day, and one day you're going to cross the double yellow line into a front-end accident? To me, it becomes that literal for those that are with means. And I put it to them that way. I'm saying, look, this is what could happen to you. So let's do something about that so that your Mercedes doesn't suddenly blow out a tire while you're driving to your privileged thing that you do. No disrespect, but just look at it like that. So anyhow, Dr. Kimberly, we will have you back if you are willing to come back and be on our show. You know, we broadcast down there in North Carolina, so we're doing everything we can to push the narrative. How can folks find you real quickly as we wrap up?
We're on every single social media platform that there is other than Truth Social because yuck. But you can also...
Yuck!
Yuck, right? There is nothing happening there that's good.
It's like you just drank some castor oil. Yuck!
Right. Because but you can link to all of those from our website, which is KimberlyHardyForCongress.com. It's the FOR. So KimberlyHardyForCongress.com.
We're going to leave it right there, but we thank you so much and honored to have you on the show this morning. Look forward to having you back, okay?
I appreciate it.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Keep those glasses on. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chu's Views.
I am often asked, why is it important to have a living trust? The most important reason is control, being able to control where your investment accounts, retirement accounts, and your home go upon your passing. This is Tony Moret. I've been an estate planning lawyer here in the Chicago area for over 35 years. You have probably heard my ads here on WCPT over the last several years, and it has been a privilege to be on their airwaves. The reality is, for most people, their assets will go through a court-supervised process in probate court, which can be expensive and takes many months. Having a living trust will make sure this does not happen. Control of your assets will be handled directly by your trusted family member or friend. I will explain every step of the process to make sure you are comfortable with the plan as we move forward. Please call me at 847-996-0496 to start. There is no fee for the initial consultation and no obligation. Again, my phone is 847-996-0496. I look forward to speaking with you.
When you've got real work to do, Metal Supermarkets will help you get it done fast. With a huge variety of metals in stock, we can help no matter what job comes your way. And we cut to size, because just like taxes and BS, we think metal is better when cut. Metal Supermarkets, the convenient stores for metal. Find a store or shop online at metalsupermarkets.com.
Hi, this is Patty Vasquez, and I'm thrilled to announce that Driving at Home with Patty Vasquez now has its very own podcast that you can subscribe to. Actually, 2 Driving at Home full episodes and Driving at Home featured interviews. You can subscribe to one or both. Just search for Driving at Home wherever you get your podcasts, or get the podcast links on my show page by visiting heartlandsignal.com and clicking on my picture.
Patty Vasquez, weeknights 5 to 7 on WCPT 820.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 a.m., WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with cloudy skies, a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for rain showers here late, cloudy and a low near 68. By Friday, partial sunshine, a high of 83 degrees. Saturday, mostly sunny and a high around 83. Sunday, chance for rain and storms, high of 83. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 71.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. For those listening to WCPT today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and then talking to Lisa Graves, legal scholar, an expert on right-wing infrastructure, the author of Without Precedent, How Chief Justice Roberts and His Accomplices Rewrote the Constitution and Dismantled Our Rights, William Muck, professor of political science at North Central College, and Rich Eberwine with 3 stories you might have missed in our digital newsroom. So make it over to heartlandsignal.com. There you go. Joan Esposito, Live, Local, and Progressive, 2 to 5 here on WCPT, Heartland Signal, and tune in tonight on Patty Vasquez's wonderful show known as Driving It Home. She'll be joined by guest co-host Ken Mejia Beal, and their guests are Ben Kamenos, host of Outside the Box with Ben Kamenos on Substack, and Joel Dinnerstein, who is a professor of English at Tulane University and author of the new book, The Last of the Ellis Island Jews, a Brooklyn memoir. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT Heartland Signal website. Tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. And y'all know tomorrow is Friday, so Crystal Spain will be with us, chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast, Young Me, who is a University of Wisconsin, Young Me Kim, I should say, University of Madison journalism professor, political science, and Fridays with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. There you go. That's what's happening. Today, we've been talking to subject matter experts, and we have another one with us today. Antonio Ciaccia is one of the leading voices, the president of 46 Brooklyn. What's that all about? They're making sure that drug pricing data, drug pricing information is more available to all of us. And I want to welcome Antonio to Choose Views. Good morning, brother. How have you been? Good to see you again. Good to hear your voice.
Hey, great to be with you again.
So, wow. I guess right now, when I think about pricing, when I think about cost, we all know, we've all seen, and one doesn't have to take a political side, but the reality is there's one group of people that have made it clear that pricing isn't really, or affordability really isn't an issue like they ran on in the 2024, not just presidential campaign, but many of the Senate and House of Representative races. Talk to us about 46 Brooklyn and why your organization is trying to do a better job of presenting real data to the country.
Yeah, so I'm out here in Columbus, Ohio. I've come from a pharmacy household, and I wanted to be a pharmacist until I hit organic chemistry and said, pharmacy sucks. I don't want to do that.
Let me out. Let me out.
That's right. And just like any Italian, when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And when I left the pharmacy program and thought pharmacy would be done, I found my way back, and my first job or second job out of college was at the Ohio Pharmacists Association, where I learned about drug pricing from the biased perspective of pharmacists. In that time, pharmacists in Ohio were complaining about underpayments within our Medicaid program, meaning that they would buy a drug for a certain price and be reimbursed at a very lean rate to cover the cost of that drug and their service. Well, on the other end of the transaction, the state of Ohio was reporting bloated costs in their Medicaid program. So two things didn't make sense. How could pharmacies be getting paid less for prescriptions that the state of Ohio was spending more money on? And so we stumbled across publicly available data that demonstrated that there was a growing gap in the transaction, that the difference between what pharmacies were getting paid and what the state was being charged was being facilitated by little-known intermediaries known as pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. Our work prompted an audit that uncovered $245 million in hidden markups in just 1 year of the Medicaid program. Now, the thing that stunned us was just how crazy it was that $245 million was hiding in plain sight, where former drug pricing illiterates like myself really had no business kind of snuffing out those types of schemes. So we launched 46 Brooklyn as an endeavor to say, wow, there's a lot of drug pricing information that's already out there, and everybody's complaining about the costs of medicines, but nobody's digging into the weeds to see where the problems actually are. And so at 46 Brooklyn, we liberate publicly available drug pricing data to help uncover and unravel drug pricing riddles.
So what would you say is the biggest one, or some of the biggest drugs that are, for lack of better words, overpriced, or we've gotten the head fake or the okie doke on the pricing versus what their real cost is?
Yeah, so the first report that we released when we launched our organization in 2018 was on a single drug. It's called Gleevec. Gleevec is one of the most popular medicines for cancer patients. It's specifically targeted as a leukemia drug. It is a miracle drug. Make no mistake. When it was released, it changed the trajectory of cancer treatment, and that's unfortunately, when a drug is very successful at doing something, it also means that drug companies can charge a lot of money for it. And this was a drug that was $330 per pill for a cancer patient who would be on that drug every day for the rest of their life. And what we found was that when the patent expired for Gleevec, generic manufacturers, that's how the system is supposed to work, that essentially that after the single brand drug manufacturer who makes the drug loses the patent, it goes away, and then generic manufacturers get the recipe for the drug, and then real competition sets in. And what usually happens is that that formerly expensive brand name drug becomes a very cheap generic drug. And in the marketplace, our report looked at essentially how generic competition really beat the heck out of the underlying cost of that product. But what we found was that because of conflicts of interest and subjective pricing from PBMs in the marketplace, you could see that even though the actual cost of the medicine declined significantly, the markups remained the same. The old price became stale. And so we found thousands and thousands of dollars in markups on just single prescriptions. That report paved the way that ultimately led to the Federal Trade Commission doing their own investigation years later, validating how a drug that can cost, we're talking about $1 at this point per pill, can still be charged by PBMs in the private market for those old stale rates of around $300 per pill.
You must sit back, Antonio, and see the data and just shake your head and scratch your head, like how this can be happening. So talk about, if you can, the way there's a movie that came out back in the 90s called Who Killed the Electric Car? And when I think about pharmaceutical drug companies, the big pharma, I mean, the behemoths, I think about this movie and I think about the relationship between big pharma and the generic industry. And I ask this question, is the big pharma industry hell-bent on trying to kill off the quote-unquote generic part of the industry? What are you seeing there in some of those head-scratching moments?
No question about it. The drug company, when people say, quote, big pharma, right? Big pharma churns out about 10% of the drugs that we take as consumers per year, meaning that the branded companies, the ones who have the patents, the one who set the really, really high prices, the ones where there's a minimal amount of competition, those only account for about 10% of the medicines that we take on a daily, annual basis. Generic drugs, which are the ones where everybody gets essentially a copy of what that original brand name product is, those make up about 90% of all transactions.
Wow.
If you were a big drug company, you want the generic drugs off the market. You want to do whatever you can to ensure that your product remains in that number one slot at the within the PBM's formulary or when the patient reaches the pharmacy counter. So there absolutely is a frictious relationship between brand drug companies and generics. But the problem is that makes sense. I think anybody hearing that would say, well, yeah, of course the brand companies don't like the generic ones because they eat all the profits. The problem in the drug channel goes far further than that, because that dynamic makes sense. What doesn't make sense is that the wholesalers, the pharmacies, the PBMs, the insurance companies, they too have conflicts of interest where they also don't like the drugs that are supposed to be the cheapest. And so what we see time and time again is that it is not just a drug company problem. It is a system problem that includes the drug company, but has a cascade of a ton of other players who all have bad incentives to favor the highest priced drugs over the most affordable ones.
Antonio, I think about another movie, and I guess this is, how we can sometimes draw parallels and learn some things. I think about the movie Dope Sick, and I'm sure you've probably seen it, or I'm certain you're aware of it, and how it exposes exactly what you just talked about in terms of the food chain of what and where the problems are. And it's not just, or I should say solely, the brand pharmaceutical companies. Talk a little bit about that food chain's negative impact on not only the pricing, but also the utilization and the prescribed part of the industry.
Yeah, so think of it this way. We have a pricing problem in the United States. In the US, we suffer from the burden of having the highest prices for medicines in the world, bar none. There's no debate. The US has the highest prices for medicines in the civilized world. And in order to combat that problem, the US relies upon market dynamics and in hoping that competition can actually lower prices. The challenge is that competition doesn't actually yield low prices. It ultimately occurs within a supply chain where PBMs run the show. So let me explain. If you're a listener sitting there saying, what the heck is a PBM? And I'm sure if the half of your listeners who haven't turned the channel yet, who have remained, a PBM works on behalf of the insurance company. And they are supposed to be the good guys. Because if the drug companies are setting high prices and they sell drugs to wholesalers who set high prices, and then they sell drugs to pharmacies who set high prices, and it's totally unreasonable to expect the consumer or an employer or government program to pay whatever the sticker prices are for these medicines that are super bloated and inflated. Well, then how the heck do we get reasonable pricing in the drug channel? Well, pharmacy benefit managers or PBMs, they work on behalf of our health insurance companies, our employers, our Medicaid programs, and they negotiate big discounts off of those inflated prices. So that sounds great, right? The three largest PBMs are Fortune 15 companies. They are larger than the drug companies and pharmacy companies they were hired to control. That should be a good thing, right? If they're there negotiating on our behalf and they're bigger, that should mean that bigger size means bigger value. And it is true. They're able to negotiate massive discounts off the list prices charged by the drug channel. But that's where things get ugly. PBMs have exemptions to federal anti-kickback laws. That allows drug companies to give big legalized kickbacks, or what we call rebates, in exchange for the PBM saying, hey, we'll make sure that the patient can get access to your drug over a competitor drug. So the drug companies can literally pay off the companies that we're relying upon to lower the cost of medicines or push more affordable medicines at the pharmacy counter. Making matters worse, those same PBMs own their own mail order pharmacies, their own retail pharmacies. If you are aware of CVS Pharmacy has an affiliated company called Caremark, which is one of the three largest PBMs in the marketplace. That means that Caremark, which is, again, a sister company of CVS Health, they get to tell the patient where to get their medicines under their benefit plan and where they can't.
Yep.
They also get to set the prices of those medicines, meaning that they can charge the patient what they want, they can charge the health plan what they want, and they get to pay their own pharmacies whatever they want. And they can also set the rates of reimbursement for CVS's competitor pharmacies, whether that be a Walgreens or all the way down to an independent pharmacy. These are just a couple of the conflicts of interest that show you that structurally we're relying on PBM to lower the cost of medicines, but they have an explicit conflict of interest, a cascade of conflicts of interest that actually makes them more money when prices go up,
because they're feeding the same beast that they're sitting at the table with. Antonio, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about PBMs. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chu's Views.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. For all you sweet tooths out there, let's look at some chocolate brands that support the Democratic Party. Hershey. Hershey gives more to Democrats. As in 2024, 58% of their donations in politics went to the Democratic Party. Toll House. Toll House is owned by Nestle. Now, Nestle stopped giving to politics in 2020, where 71% of their donations went to Democrats. But in 2024, some of their senior leaders donated, and out of their political donations, 78% of those donations went to Democrats. And if you like chocolate cake, let's talk about Pillsbury and Betty Crocker. They're both owned by General Mills, and out of all their political donations, 77% of General Mills' political donations go to Democrat candidates and causes. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
All right, guys, welcome back to Chu's Views. I'm Richard Chu. If you're just tuning in, Antonio Ciaccia is the president of 46 Brooklyn and is giving us a masterclass on what's happening with pricing in the pharmaceutical industry, both generic and brand, but also explaining where the real cog in the system with regard to PBMs has been probably the more destructive part of our pricing problems. Antonio, there's so much more to talk about this, and I know with the limited amount of time we have today, I want to just pivot a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about legislation. I mean, we're in a world, in a climate right now where we see legislatures on a state level and on a federal level, some actually kind of skirting the issue, in my observation. How can policymakers, everyday consumers, folks like you and me, be able to track better drug pricing and costs of drugs, and how can we really build a better system? Because you said it earlier, it's the system that's the problem.
Yeah, ultimately there's a few things that I think policymakers can look at. The first and foremost is our problems start with high prices, period. That is not a PBM problem. It's not a pharmacy problem. It's not a drug company problem. It's an everybody problem. When everybody makes more money in the system, when drug prices are high, don't be surprised when you get high drug prices. And that is especially true when the counterweight or the friction that we're relying upon in the insurance market from PBMs, if they also like high prices, but we rely upon them to make them lower, well, we're going to get high prices because the PBM makes more money off of big discounts off higher prices. They position themselves as the proverbial toll booth in the system, that in order to access reasonable pricing, we must walk through their toll booth. And so that if you were a PBM sympathizer or fill in the blank of any layer of the supply chain, you'd say, okay, well, look, it's not our fault. The prices are high. Well, then we just need a system where we don't have to go through the toll booth. Mm-hmm. We have, as I said earlier, 90% of the drugs that we take in America are generic drugs, meaning that anybody can get the recipe to the drug and offer it at a lower price. So for 90% of the drugs out there, the market should, obviously in absence of antitrust issues and things like that, but we should see prices decline, the cost go down, but we don't see that. So what legislatures are often missing is that, well, let's say we're going to just tell the drug company they have to charge less. The prices have to be lower. We're telling drug companies we're not going to pay any more than X, Y, Z. So often the problem in the drug channel is that even when you get a low price, that low price is not passed on to the patient at the pharmacy counter. It's not passed on to the employer paying the bill. And so it's not just as simple as saying we need low prices. We need low prices that actually trickle through the entire drug channel so that when the patient walks into the pharmacy, they don't need a PBM to negotiate a low price because the marketplace has already yielded it right then and there at the pharmacy counter, meaning we no longer have to pay a toll or rely on high prices in order to achieve that low price at the counter.
Got it. That's profound. It gets into the systems issue rather than an individual part of the system. Antonio, talk a little bit about, and I had a listener ask a question about this whole thing around going to the doctor and a doctor giving out free meds. And I know you got your observations on that, but I just want to acknowledge that that's a thought out there by one of our listeners. But I really want to ask you this question about this, what's happening with regard to this most favored nation concept that's coming out of the federal administration as it relates to pricing approach with pharmaceuticals. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, look, for as long as I've been alive, politicians have made their political living going back to county fairs and local roundtables and say, we're going to go back to Washington or we're going to go back to the state capitol and we're going to lower the prices of medicines. And we all gobble that up and say, it's about time. Well, I'm 43 years old, and in my time, drug prices have only gone up. So there are 43 years at least that I can account for where everybody who said they were going to lower prices, they failed or lied. because the prices go up every single year. In fact, we track every price increase on a week-by-week basis in our data analyses. And that what that shows is that whatever we're doing is failing. So what most favored nations is ultimately trying to achieve is saying, look, we know that other countries are taking different approaches to how they access medicines within their borders. Many countries essentially dictate and say they will have price controls. And if you're a drug company and you want to sell your drug in our country, you're going to have to set it at whatever price we set. The U.S. is not allowed for that to happen. But what most favored nation is intended to do is to try and borrow those prices as a benchmark to say, we, the government, will not pay any more than what you have offered to other industrialized nations that engage in price controls. So you have the government trying to kind of fit a square peg in a round hole to say, we have this system of ridiculous bloated prices. We're upset about that. And so we're, rather than actually fix our own problems, we're going to say, well, here's the price in the UK. Just give us that one and we'll call it a day. And the Trump administration, and previously before him, the Biden administration, both took steps to try to say, look, we want to normalize our pricing experience and make it the same relative to other countries. And I think those are very well-intended goals if you want to try and lower the prices of medicines. But here's the rub. In the United States, we don't just have a PBM problem. We don't just have a drug company problem. We have a government problem. Mm-hmm. Years ago, the government went to drug companies and said, when they expanded drug coverage to Medicaid beneficiaries, so those who are the poorest and the most underserved in every state, before the 90s, they didn't cover the drugs under the Medicaid program. Once they did, they told the drug companies, look, we're going to cover all these drugs for Medicaid recipients in exchange, because we know you're going to be selling more drugs as a result. We expect you to give us, the government, a discount. And I'm sure anybody hearing this says, that's a great idea. If we're going to cover the drugs, we should get a discount. Well, a discount sounds great on paper, but when you etch it in policy and say, look, we're going to demand you, drug company, to give us a discount on a drug, what you've now said in policy is that the price is now going to be a lie. Yep. Because the target isn't going to be an actual low price. The target is going to be the discount. So long as drug companies can set whatever prices they want, the discount and then you require, they can, yeah, exactly. It gets priced into the sauce.
Yep. It's always been interesting, Antonio, and I definitely want to have some more conversation with you again in the near future. So thanks for taking some time to hang out with us this morning. But I love the way you put that. It's baked into that gumbo, or it's baked into that goulash. It's one of the ingredients, and that just goes back to the whole conversation around it's the system that's the issue, not maybe one of the individual components that we sometimes that get highlighted as a problem. It's the entire system that's broken down. Antonio, as we wrap up, how can folks find you and the work that you and your great organization are doing?
Yeah, if you want to become a drug pricing nerd and bore your friends and family about the nuances of drug pricing and acronyms that nobody ever wants to hear, you can find our work at 46brooklyn.com. We track manufacturer prices, Medicaid costs, Medicare costs, and you can find in our cascade of benchmarks and data sets and visualizations drugs that should be very cheap, like $45, but are being charged $12,000.
Yeah. Antonio, thanks you so much for being with us, man. Stay safe. We look forward to having you back on again sometime soon. Does that sound cool?
Always a pleasure, man.
Good to see you. Good to hear you. Talk with you soon. Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye. Well, there you go, guys. Made it to the end of the show. I wonder how we got there. Make sure you were staying tuned for Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and next up here on WCPT is the Stephanie Miller Show. And remember, take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.
When you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, things get real.
And nobody understands that better than the Parkinson's Foundation. We provide resources and support because there are things you can do to improve your quality of life. So, whether you're newly diagnosed, have been living with Parkinson's, or caring for a loved one,
Find real answers at the Parkinson's Foundation.
Go to parkinson.org or call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO.
This is WCPT 820. Listen in Chicago on 820 AM or stream us live on WCPT820.com, the TuneIn radio app, or tell Alexa or Google to play WCPT.
For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers the professional-grade products you need, delivered when and where you need them. Call and click Grainger.com or just stop by.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Military officials say the majority of American troops wounded in the Iran war have suffered traumatic brain injuries. The lasting effects of these injuries are raising fresh concerns about the toll of the Iran war. Nearly 700 U.S. service members have been wounded by drone and missile attacks on bases in the Middle East and other fighting. The Pentagon's chief spokesman, Sean Parnell, last month called the vast majority of injuries over a 2-week period minor concussions. Iran says it's in the final stage of drafting an agreement with Oman over the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump has said a deal could be announced this week. Iran has insisted on some measure of control over the strait, saying it will not go back to being an open international waterway, as it was before the war. A progressive Democrat has notched a massive win in Michigan. AP Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports.
Abdul El-Sayed has won the party's Senate nomination after a bruising primary battle with Congresswoman Haley Stevens. That's a significant shift for Democrats. 8 years ago, El-Sayed was blown out in a gubernatorial primary. Now he and the progressive wing face real tests, uniting a divided party and beating GOP nominee Mike Rogers for a seat vital to Democrat chances of retaking the Senate. As votes were being counted last night, El-Sayed said the party has one goal, no matter who is the nominee:
to make sure that Mike Rogers never sees the inside of the U.S. Senate.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
U.S. futures were mixed ahead of key economic data and continued uncertainty about the conflict in Iran. SpaceX shares rose 3%. More on this and other stories at apnews.com. This is AP News.
AP Sports, I'm Lisa Dwyer. Missing a trio of injured sluggers in the middle of their lineup, the New York Yankees were limited to 4 hits and a 3-1 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals. As the stadium lights went dark several times during the game, the Yankees have mustered 2 runs or fewer in 6 of the past 7 games. New York Mets rookie Jeffrey Yon struck out the first batter he faced in the majors in a 6-5 win over Cleveland. Luke Kuechly being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He played 8 seasons with the Carolina Panthers, earning numerous accolades, including NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 2013. Despite his career being cut short by concussions, his ability to anticipate plays made him a formidable opponent. And it's the opening round of the Wyndham Championship, the final regular season event on the PGA Tour. I'm Lisa Dwyer, AP Sports.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with cloudy skies, a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for rain showers here late, cloudy and a low near 68. By Friday, partial sunshine, a high of 83 degrees. Saturday, mostly sunny and a high around 83. Sunday, chance for rain and storms, high of 83. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 72.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Latinos have been here always, before, during, and after the founding of the United States. We are small business owners rising before dawn to power the economy, hands that pick, manage, and prepare the food that nourishes America. Builders of our homes, our cities, our roads, our communities. Workers who labor daily to strengthen the very fabric of our nation. We are caregivers, teachers, doctors, engineers, neighbors, families raising the next generation. Latinos contribute over $4 trillion to America's GDP, bringing promise, innovation, and vitality to every corner of the U.S. We are the backbone, an indelible part of the American story. We are America. America is us. Learn more by going to americaisus.org and discover how Latinos have shaped America's journey and continue to forge its future.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and a drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
Chicago's Progressive Talk,